This is a talk that asks the question, is there a standard English in England? And from an international perspective, it might seem to be a stupid question. If they don't speak good English in England, where then should they speak it? A quick answer to the question is to look at some of the maps showing the variants, the lexical and syntactic variants that are in the various language atlases of England. We've got some of the maps in this course, and you find very, very quickly that there are many variants. There is lots of variation. You can do the same thing these days in the BBC library of recordings from around England, and there's another one on the website as well. You can have great fun, and you will find that there's lots and lots and lots of variation. Not just generation to generation, which tends not to be the case these days, but and not just urban, non-urban. There are wonderful mixes of the traditional countryside varieties occurring in new urban environments. To the extent that when you get the maps and you try to draw the lines, the isotopes that separate one variant from another, or one set of variants from another, it's actually very hard to make them coincide. It's actually very hard to say with any degree of certainty, here is one where one variety begins and another ends, since there are many social factors coming into play. So that's the first lesson, I think, to be drawn from the maps that I hope you will look at. The situation is very complex. And even when we do have maps like the one reproduced in Gradol, you have the isotopes more or less corresponding across the north of England. Yeah, it will for those particular variables, for those particular linguistic variants. You can do that sort of thing. However, what tends to happen more, I think, is that just a few variants become marked as markers of identity, of linguistic identity, for better or for worse. That is, that in the identity part of varieties, in what people think they are speaking rather than what they do speak, it's just a few markers that come up and indicate. For example, if you say up, you're up north. Okay, you're Birmingham and above there somewhere. And if you say I don't think so, the th to f, or I'm thinking about my mother, the to v, or I'm going to St Paul's or David Beckham because I think I really like playing football, where the final L is vocalized. I've just used 3 variants there, but they would be enough to mark Cockney, or 1 degree of Cockney on the social scale. So what I'm trying to suggest is that on the one hand, you've got a very complex situation linguistically. On the other hand, just a few select variants tend to mark out varieties that are recognized as such and have a regional and or social value, an identification value. As you'll find, especially from Trudgill, the classical texts, the higher you go up the social scale, the social class, the less variation there is, the closer you're getting to a standard RP, received pronunciation. And then we also find that in the battle between RP and the regional, or it's a diglossic situation, we can talk about the L varieties. The ones that tend to be winning are the L varieties. To the extent that we can now talk about variants that mark RP. When the Queen and Prince Charles use that final E, really, that E. That's not found in other varieties. We can now talk about RP as being marked as non-standard. The standard, the non-markedness, if you like, has moved somewhere in that Southern English mix of RP and Cockney elements coming up through the social strata, in that mix that is called estuary English. So let's get back to the question. Is there a standard English in England? Well, yes, to some extent. To the extent that there is markedness, markedness as a difference from something. And there seems to be a diffuse and general recognition that Cockney is deviant from something, that North is deviant from something, that RP is deviant from something, and there is something there that would be common to them. There's an implicit social recognition of a standard with respect to which we have identity. Okay? Which is an interesting social phenomenon. It's something that happens in people's heads. It's not something you can necessarily locate and quantify in linguistic terms. Is there a standard in England? Well, yes, there is still. If you look at the written language and the language of literature still, you will find that it's written in an H variety, which is fairly common across the board. And you'll find that as being fairly much in tune with what's done in the laws of the country as well, and all the official regulations. There is that H variety being used there. It's a written variety, so it's not bothered about the variants that are just accents, that are just pronunciation, which may be another reason why the markedness is on the phonetic level. So that people can have their identity, but not mess up with the communication necessary for the nation state. In literature, the markedness for the L varieties is in dialogues, but not often in the narrative voice. On the other hand, no. If there is a standard, it's a standard in evolution. If there is a standard, it's a standard coming from that mix of RP and Cockney in the Southern English area and RP and the Northern varieties. It's something that is evolving and is dynamic as the social structures themselves evolve and are dynamic. If there is a standard, I want to suggest it exists within a diglossic situation. It exists within that tension between H and L, where there are extreme forms of H, which are just for the Queen and for Prince Charles. The rest is a space to be watched for future developments.